Hey there, John. This is a video I've had in my mind, for quite a while, and it's kind of like, let's get her done. Okay, kickback. Kickback has caused just horrendous injuries and, yes, fatalities. The kickback issue, the question I'd like to ask is, what makes kickback so dangerous? And actually, it's three issues together. Yes, the kickback, that we say, well, the saw kicks back and cuts you. But let's take it apart a little bit. Kick and back. That phrase, or those two words, have been attached to this reaction from the saw because of two factors, right? Well, kick and back. The kick part of this name, as we call it, the kick, it's coming from the top quarter of that tip, and it's called kickback and not pushback. Pushback, of course, that's the top of your bar. We deal with pushing chain and pulling chain all day long. It's not a problem. It's the kick, and as I show you here in this video, the action from the saw, or the energy, is violent. You might as well be trying to catch a swinging baseball bat with one hand. Okay, that energy is extreme. That's only one issue. Now the back, we call it kick back. Well, the back is a direction word, meaning the saw is kicking upward. That is true. However, if the saw is laying on its side and we're in a, say, a back cut position with the saw, cutting brush, when we're running a saw, we're holding that saw in all kinds of directions. So what I like to highlight is it may not be a kick back, it very well may be a kick sideways. So the second factor that I throw into this, what makes kickback so dangerous, is it's violent and it's kicking that bar toward body parts. I was working with a crew just last month. We got called in to do the training because they had someone cutting a stump off. The tree was gone, but they were simply lowering the stump, working with a pushing chain at first, but I think we can all see where this pushing chain forced the saw backward in the stump, and that transitioned from a pushing chain to a kicking chain, and that saw kicked sideways and nailed him right in the leg. It was a serious cut, not life-threatening, but this fella actually showed me the picture from the hospital, and the doctor was pushing on the artery, and he said, had you cut into that, you would have had about 3 minutes. So we want to appreciate that it's violent. It kicks that bar toward body parts. And now for the third. These three put together make kickback extremely dangerous. The third is that we are surprised by it. Okay? Remember that factor. There is zero reason for anyone, I don't care skill level, what you're doing with the saw, it does not matter. You never ever cause a kickback deliberately. Unless, of course, you're making a video about the dangers of kickback. So let's rehash. It's violent, it kicks that bar toward body parts, and 3, we're surprised by it. We never do that deliberately. When you throw those 3 together, kickback from a saw can be extremely dangerous as far as an injury, and yes, it can be fatal. So, how in the world would I have the nerve to make a video and show you kickback? It's because I eliminate 2 of those issues. 1, I am holding the saw such that the kick is not toward me. It's not kicking toward my body parts. And 2, I'm not surprised by it. I'm doing this deliberately. So here's the heads up. Do not ever do that. I am doing it for the sake of making a video to show you how violent that energy is. And as you see in that video that I'll show you, and I showed you it the first, and I'm going to show you that again. So now you have this in your mind. It's violent. I have it so that the saw is not kicking toward me, and I'm doing it deliberately, okay? And you'll actually see how the inertia brake system worked in that this plastic, they've actually engineered the little tripping mechanism here to where when that energy is violent enough, the plastic, okay, the weight of that will actually kick that brake on. But that is definitely not something that we just say, well, it's there, that will protect me. Absolutely not. It is simply an additional layer to help reduce the chances of an injury should a kickback happen. Okay, remember those three. Take care, guys. Hope that helped. What I'd like you to notice when I did that demonstration there that I opened this with, what I did there is I made contact with the tree with the bottom of the tip, and you'll notice it just cuts into the wood. That would be the beginning of any kind of bore cutting. So if you followed us, bore cutting in trees is very common, but you need to know how to do it. You do not ever make contact with the top quarter of that tip. Out of all of this surface area, it's about 1.5 inches of surface area right there, the top quarter of that tip. That's when the chain is going around in a direction that is opposite toward your body parts. Depending on the angle of the saw, whether you're holding it upright, that's coming back at you. Laying it on its side, that's going sideways. It can hit you in the leg, it can pop that saw out of your hand to where the saw comes down onto your leg or your foot. I'll repeat, do not ever do that demonstration you're seeing me do there, okay? Just don't do it. Take my word for it. Now, in the context of all of this kickback, there's an issue I've seen addressed before, other videos, great stuff. I'm going to nail it again, okay? And it has to do with this thumb. And it is bizarre how we can stand in a group, 8, 10 folks, and I bring up the importance of keeping that thumb down, and the heads are nodding, absolutely. Yep, my dad told me, by golly. I've actually heard that, you know, some, either the hardcore boss or the dad I've heard, he'll come right across my hand with a stick if he sees that thumb up. And here is what's really interesting. The very person that says that, I will give him the saw and say, you know, can you limb that tree up, or can you fell that tree, or can you cut some of that brush out of the way here for us? They grab that saw, they start it up, and here's what they do. They'll pull the throttle and the thumb goes up. And they'll be cutting, and I get their attention. I'll be off to the side, you know, with kind of a wave, and they look up at me, and here's what they do, okay? They're cutting, they let go. You see that? They let go of the throttle. They stop and look at me and say, what? And of course, I've got 6, 8 witnesses that were also watching that very same person that just said, not 30 seconds prior, absolutely keep that thumb down. And that person will start that saw up. And my point here is, some folks don't realize it. And I always throw out the suggestion, if you're working as a crew, don't hesitate to, you know, watching your crewmate, working a saw. If you see this thumb up here on the handlebar, right? And they're running that saw, they're cutting. Get their attention safely now. Don't step up to them, but safely get their attention and remind them, you know, give them the old thumb down, okay, on that saw. Quick review. Kickback injuries happen because it's violent. It kicks that bar toward body parts, and we're surprised by it. And if this thumb is habitually up on the handlebar, either against it or over it, that surprise is what can turn a nice day in the woods into a really serious bad day. Okay, thumbs down. Keep that thumb down. And I'm not talking about, you know, we don't need to have a white knuckle grip on the saw because that creates other problems and health issues. But I'm talking about keep that thumb under there so that if we get surprised, and I'll be honest, it happens. It has happened to me. I've had that saw pop off the end of that bar. You know, it hit something in the brush, hidden, whatever. And I get that jolt in my arm. I'm like, whoa, I did not see that coming. That was a surprise. The thumb stays under the handlebar so that that kicking energy gets popped right into what I kind of call a hook, right? Keep that thumb underneath there, and that goes a long ways toward that saw not coming out of your hand or, you know, coming back at you, or just that little pop, right? The thumb up here, you get that little pop, and we drop the saw down, coming down onto the leg or the foot. Thumbs down when we're running a saw, okay? Take care, guys. See you in the woods sometime.